Bonjour. We're going to continue our Paris lesson today with the study of French churches, les églises françaises, the French churches. There are quite a few churches we're going to learn, and several of them have different architectural features that we're going to talk about today. The early churches are called les églises romaines, the Romanesque churches. And I have some props here today to kind of illustrate the architecture of these different styles. So for the Romanesque church, such as Saint-Germain-des-Prés, who we'll be getting later on, you're going to be seeing thick walls and a rounded arch. These walls had to be thick to support the weight of the roof. Because they were thick and because they had to be so sturdy, there were very few window openings on these walls. So consequently, it was very dark inside the church. These churches were very plain, very simple, very few sculptures. There might have been some frescoes or murals on the wall, but for the most part, very, very simple. Okay? So thick walls, rounded arches. That took place in the 1000s and 1100s. In the 1200s to the 1500s, the architecture style changed to Gothic. In fact, France was the first country to have Gothic churches. Notre Dame, is an example of a Gothic church. So how do these two differ? Well, take a look at the books that I've used. These are very thin. So we have thin walls in the Gothic churches and very high roof, very high spires. How can these thin walls support the weight of this roof? By a new technique called flying buttresses. And that's illustrated here by these DVDs that are supporting the walls. So they have these outside support beams that are bearing the weight of the roof. And because of these outside support beams, they can have a lot of windows on the walls. So it's very, very light on the inside. Some of the windows are called rose windows, and they are round windows that appear on the front and on the sides of Notre Dame, about 33 feet in diameter. Okay, those are called les rosaces, the rose windows. This took place in France between the 12 and the 1500s. One of the other characteristics of Gothic architecture is the sculptures on the inside and on the outside. And one of those is les gargouilles. And this little fellow appears on the outside of the building. If you walk up to the bell tower, you can actually get a picture taken next to him on the outside of the building. But the gargoyles had a second purpose, and that was to serve as water spouts. And these gargoyles come out of the side of the building like this, and the water is directed down to the pavement and away from the walls, so it doesn't damage the walls. So take a look at my notes over here. We have L'Architecture Romane, dating from the 10 to 1200s, Romanesque. And by the way, the word Romaine comes from the Roman arch from way back at the time of Julius Caesar. The very sturdy Roman arches, like you see in the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, for example. They have thick walls, murs épais, rounded arches, les arcs ronds, dark on the inside, sombre à l'intérieur, and not very high, pas très haut. Okay, so the Gothic were a whole lot taller than the Romanesque. Then to the second style, l'architecture gothique, from the 12 to the 1500s. They are very high, très haut, pointed arches, les arcs pointus, the flying buttresses, les arcs boutons, a lot of light, beaucoup de lumière à l'intérieur. And this is the special word for stained glass, les vitraux, and the rose windows, les rosaces. With a lot of sculptures, beaucoup de sculptures, and the gargoyles, les gargouilles. Okay? And the third style is the Byzantine. And we'll be seeing one church of Byzantine style, and it's characterized by a rounded dome. It's called the Sacred Heart, the Sacré-Cœur. So that's really the only one we'll have of that style. So I've got your Romanesque, my collapsed Notre Dame here, kind of indicative of what happened last year at Notre Dame. And then we'll talk about the Byzantine too, the one church with Byzantine architecture. All right, that's it. You might have to play this again to take the notes. All right, au revoir.